Live with studios in Midland and Odessa, you're watching CBS7 First Alert News at 9 on the CW West Texas.
It's a new opportunity for our passengers to travel. Hey, going from 3 airlines to 4 is awesome. And, we'll hope at some point in our expansion to add another gate and then maybe another airline.
Earlier today, Delta Airlines flew into Midland for the first time in a decade. We've got more details on today's exciting landing coming up in your travel news. Thanks for joining us for CBS7 News on the CW. And thanks to those of you joining us live from the CBS7 YouTube. I'm Laura Munt, and we start tonight with continuing coverage. Over the weekend, 147 dogs were saved from euthanization after a distemper outbreak at the Midland Animal Shelter, including this guy, Gravy, who's being fostered by CBS7's Noe Ortega. After a distemper outbreak in March, last week the city of Midland announced that the majority of animals at the shelter have the contagious virus. Because of these results, the shelter asked for help in rescuing as many animals as possible.
After that, unfortunately, we will have to humanely euthanize any dogs in our facility. We then plan to shut down for a few days so we can deep clean the facility.
147 dogs were facing euthanization.
It was heartbreaking, it was tense, it was emotional, it was all of the things you would expect for it to be when you find out information like that.
But now, thanks to the local organizations, national organizations, City of Midland, and members of the West Texas community, all the dogs are alive and safe.
We're best when all organizations are working together and the community comes and supports its animal shelter.
What we did was we sat down, we got together and said, what can we do? How can we help?
It wasn't an easy mission, but it was a successful one.
We ended up with around 90 new foster homes for these pets, just in a matter of about 36 hours.
The kennels are empty at the Midland Animal Shelter. So what happens now?
This is an exciting opportunity to make sure that the Midland Animal Shelter gets a thorough cleaning to make sure our protocols are the best they can be, which includes testing on arrival when dogs come in the future.
As for that future, Fix West Texas plans to play a big part in it.
We have plans to just come alongside, and whatever the city needs in the future, we are more than happy to help. Our mission and our goal has always been for the animals.
The work's not over yet. All of these dogs, including Gravy, are going to need permanent homes. For information on helping these animals, you can go to our website, CBS7.com. We turn now to a story out of Odessa, where DPS says that 4 people were killed in a head-on crash on Saturday. Officials say 19-year-old Leo Sandoval was driving his pickup truck in the wrong direction along West 42nd Street when he crashed head-on into another pickup at FM 1936. All 3 people in the other truck died on the scene, and they've been identified as 46-year-old Hector Martinez, Olivas, 45-year-old Norma Marquez Gonzalez, and a 14-year-old boy. Sandoval was taken to Medical Center Hospital, where he later died. DPS say they are still investigating what led up to the crash. Tracking crime now, 37 pounds of methamphetamine were seized during a traffic stop in Odessa earlier today. According to DPS, the narcotic seizure was a part of a joint investigation with DPS, Criminal Investigations Division, and Texas Highway Patrol. We've got a traffic alert for you now, where the eastbound lane on I-20 at Cotton Flat will be closed tonight at 7 o'clock for construction. According to officials, it won't reopen until after 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. Crews are working to repair the main lane detour pavement, and officials say to expect traffic and consider alternate routes if possible. And early voting has kicked off today ahead of the May 4th election. It'll continue through April 30th. One of the most important races on the ballot in the Permian Basin is the race for Midland's vacant at-large city council seat. Midlanders can vote at the Midland County Annex along A Street. And City of Midland residents inside Martin County can vote at the Martin County Election Administrator's Office in Stanton. You can find more voting centers and learn about the candidates for the council seat at CBS7.com. We're also keeping our eye on the Big Spring ISD bond election on May 4th. Stay with us that night on air and on social media as we get results. We're going to take a pause now and talk your weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Tom Teefer-Teller. Tom, it was a really chilly, really rainy weekend. Are we going to see any more of that this week, or is it going to lighten up?
Well, it looks like we may see an isolated thunderstorm or two in our forecast this week. Tonight, not too much going on out there. Pretty quiet evening. We did see one lone thunder shower develop across the Davis Mountains northeast of Fort Davis. You can kind of see the little green there splotch moving across and then dying out rather quickly as everything's being driven by daytime heating. We are looking at a pretty quiet evening out there, upper 60s already across the area. Still some breeze, but it has calmed down. Sustained winds below 20 miles an hour and still some gusts around 25 miles an hour across the area. Again, here's what we're looking at for your evening. We are going to see for the overnight hours, temperatures only dropping down into the mid-50s as a big warm-up begins starting tomorrow. We may introduce an isolated thunderstorm or two in forecast for parts of West Texas.
We have a crime alert for you now. The I-20 Nature Preserve sees people visit from all over West Texas. But recently, guests did more than just visit. A few weeks ago, the 100-acre nature center was broken into and was left with its locks, doors, and the irrigation system destroyed. The Wildlife Preserve is meant to be an educational center, but vandalism like this can heavily affect an organization that relies on volunteers and donations, especially when the main repair will be a pipe that was the main source of water for the butterfly garden, a home to many plants, birds, and other species.
The well is completely turned off, so we have no irrigation to that area. We're in the process of wanting to start planting our spring plants for the habitat. Now we have to go back and bring somebody out here to repair that, to get that up and running. The purpose of the vandalism was it's very unfortunate. And everybody suffers. The habitat suffers, the wildlife suffers, the community suffers.
The preserve is planning on adding security cameras because this isn't the first time that this has happened. For more information on the I-20 Nature Preserve or how you can help, you can visit our website at CBS7.com. And in February, over 53,000 people flew out of the Midland International Air and Spaceport, and only 3 airlines. Now, with a 4th airline joining the ranks, that number is expected to increase. Starting today, MAF now has 2 airlines that can connect to Austin, Southwest and Delta. Starting tomorrow, Delta will have 3 flights coming in and 3 flights going out of MAF. Right now, an estimated 1 million people a year visit MAF, and the addition of Delta Airlines has already made an impact on the airport's growth.
We have a new project coming up with a new security checkpoint, and that should help alleviate some of the backup that we have at the checkpoint right now. We should have at least 3 lanes and a dedicated pre-check lane, so we're in the design of that project right now.
The Midland Air and Spaceport is ranked one of the fastest growing economies in United States mid-sized cities by Kennan Institute's American Growth Project. And some more travel news across North Texas. Multiple rounds of heavy rain caused issues on roadways and for airport travelers. Bo Evans has been covering it and has more.
Frustrated flyers at DFW.
Pretty much has destroyed our whole vacation so far.
Our flight got delayed 5-6 hours, stuck in Fort Lauderdale. The plane was waiting there, and we just couldn't come in because everything was grounded here.
It's kind of a mess.
Jodan Brown and his family were supposed to be on a 10-day vacation in Knoxville already. Instead, they've spent nearly 12 hours at the airport with no end in sight. Over 500 cancellations Saturday afternoon, according to FlightAware.
I feel pretty frustrated.
Tracy Bailey's husband was supposed to land hours ago.
They canceled his flight 3 times today.
The roads have been rough as well. MedStar told us by mid-afternoon they'd already responded to more than 40 accidents. 23 of those sent someone to the hospital, an increase of 115% from last week. Those waiting for loved ones at the airport just want everyone home safe.
I just want him home. He's tired of traveling. He wants to be home. I'm ready for him to be home.
On the southern Texas coast, a runaway lemur that has won over the hearts of a Corpus Christi area community has been captured. The lemur's name is King Julian. Yeah, that King Julian, like the movie Madagascar. And he was on the run for weeks. Victoria Balderrama has more on his capture.
He's King Julian. Move it, move it.
Spencer Bell is elated along with the rest of the neighborhood.
Hi, buddy. Is your friend gone?
For nearly 3 weeks, Bell has been determined to find the lemur. The search began April 1st when 2 lemurs were seen all over Aransas Pass. One lemur unfortunately drowned.
It could have been worse. You know, we could have lost them both, and so at least now he'll be safe and he'll be with, you know, animals of his own kind where he needs to be.
Catching Julian the lemur was no easy task. Bell tells us when it was spotted Wednesday night on South Houston Street, he rushed over.
Yeah, I had my game camera set up in this tree right here, pointed at it, and it goes to my cell phone. So I was hoping that eventually he would show up in the cage. And yeah, I had finished dinner, got out of the shower, opened up the app, and his little furry face was in the cage.
Once in the cage, animal control showed up and took it back to their facilities.
He is secured in a double enclosure to prevent any mishaps or escape.
Officer Christy Generali says because they can't care for an exotic animal, they're planning on what to do next. Animal control has been following leads on who the owner could be.
We are currently speaking with the Texas Zoo in Victoria for them to hold him for us for 10 days because he is somebody's pet, allegedly somebody's pet. We do, per our policy, we're required to give them 10 days to step forward and claim him.
If no one claims King Julian, Ringtail Ranch Lemur Rescue in Lubbock has offered to take him in to be with the dozens of other lemurs. And still ahead, giant sequoias are endangered in California. But coming up next, we talk about how the world's largest tree is thriving across the pond. Scientists say that climate change is threatening the world's largest trees. Giant sequoias are native to California, but they're endangered. As CBS7 News shows us, the mighty trees are flourishing across the pond.
You can't miss these majestic trees, giant sequoias towering over the surrounding landscape. But this isn't California, it's the English countryside.
Yeah, the trees here, they're very popular.
Scientist Phil Wilkes monitors the monsters outside of London, measuring the trees with a laser.
You can then estimate how much carbon is stored in the tree.
The average giant sequoia pulls roughly 190 pounds of carbon out of the air every year, offsetting about 800 miles in a gas-powered car. Phil then compares the giant sequoia's growth to their American cousins. How do these trees stack up to their relatives in the States?
They're doing surprisingly well, actually. These trees are relatively young, so they're mere saplings compared to the trees in the States. These trees are probably 110 years old.
Giant sequoias can live more than 3,000 years and soar nearly 300 feet in the air. But experts say wildfires and climate change are threatening their native habitat. That's not a problem here in the UK. Most people, though, don't think of California and the UK having the same climate.
Sierra Nevada mountains can be quite similar to here, so it's cooler and it's more damp, and that's very British weather.
Today, more than 500,000 giant sequoias are thriving in the UK, compared to fewer than 80,000 in the US.
We're very happy to have a tree like that here. We associate them with your fine country, and it's lovely to have them here.
If you run out of them, then we can always give you a few back, can't we? Because we're cousins after all.
Giving an American icon a safe home away from home.
Ian Lee, CBS News, Sussex, England.
President Biden celebrated Earth Day by announcing $7 billion in EPA grants to increase household access to solar power. He traveled to William Forest Park in Triangle, Virginia to talk about the Solar for All program, which offers homeowners grants and loans to install solar panels on their property. The president says that the EPA will make 60 grants, covering every U.S. state and territory to help reduce carbon pollution by more than 30 metric tons over the next 55 years.
And it's a big deal. This new Solar for All program means that 900,000 households, 900,000 will have solar on the rooftops for the first time and soon. Millions of families will save over $400 a year in utility bills, and that's $350 million nationwide.
And that was over the next 25 years, not 55. The president also announced the first jobs available as part of the American Climate Corps. Under the training program, more than 2,000 young people in 36 states can apply for positions aimed at fighting climate change, including installing solar panels, battling wildfires, and rebuilding wetlands.
Well, back home in West Texas, things are pretty quiet today. It looks like isolated thunderstorms may make an appearance. We'll talk about that and the rest of your week's forecast up next.
Now, from the CBS7 First Alert Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, as we take a look at that satellite and radar view again, most areas are clear. A few leftover clouds down in the mountain areas in the southern Pecos County. Really about it. As again, this is just kind of the starter though for isolated thunderstorms this time of the year to get going in those mountain areas. So we'll definitely watch that. But it looks like a dry line is going to set up here across parts of the central Permian Basin south into the lower Trans-Pecos. That could be our next weather maker for parts of West Texas. We're waiting on another storm system to make an approach to the area. It looks like all that's going to happen coming up on Thursday into Friday, and that may be our best chance at any showers, thunder showers in the forecast. Right now, chances look slim, and it looks like the brunt of it's going to be off to the north and northeast, but definitely something to watch this week. Other than that, a pretty quiet weather pattern across the state of Texas. Isolated showers, thunder showers across portions of deep South Texas a little bit earlier today. Other than that, great on temperatures. Most areas very nice. It was a little warmer along the Rio Grande. And one of the warm spots was Presidio, up to 87 degrees this afternoon. Some of the warmest in the state right here again in West Texas. Now let's take a look at this futurecast. Want to show you that again, we're starting to see a little dry line set up. First thing in the morning, some low cloudiness possible, Ira and Sheffield down towards the Sanderson area, maybe creeping up into portions of Upton County, Reagan County, and maybe a little bit right across the Permian Basin. But it's not going to last too long, as that dry line is going to kind of hang around the area. You see an isolated thunderstorm or two firing up here along it across portions of the, northern Terrell County is what I'm trying to say. Other than that, just clouds. Everything looks very isolated. There's going to be a weak front try to come down across the northeast Permian Basin. Isolated thunderstorm associated with it. Looking at the forecast for Wednesday again, another setup with a lot of low clouds developing, and that could spring up an isolated thunderstorm or two once again along that dry line in the afternoon. Quiet tonight though, a little bit of breeze staying up in the forecast, and then for tomorrow, more of a southwest wind. It's going to push those temperatures up close to 90 plus across many areas. And that's really the temperature trend here over the next few days until we see that next system roll in, that next week front. Thursday into Friday, 10% chance of shower thunderstorms early on Friday. And then we'll be looking at a little bit in the way of some breeze, even windy conditions coming up for the weekend. Keep that in mind with any outdoor plans.
Are you dealing with a large amount of credit card debt? Well, why you shouldn't ignore it. Next in your consumer news. Americans are dealing with a mountain of credit card debt. Total credit balances topped $1 trillion in the third quarter of 2023, according to the New York Fed. In this Watching Your Wallet, consumer investigator Rachel DePompa speaks to an expert about why you shouldn't ignore your debt.
Getting into debt can feel overwhelming, but many experts say the worst thing you can do is just pretend it isn't happening. Leslie Tane is a debt relief attorney with 25 years experience. She says don't ignore your debt and let it go into default.
It is common to not only feel a lot of stress from having debt, but as a result to ignore it. It is probably one of the worst things you can do in your circumstances is to ignore any kind of debt that you have, good or bad.
Tane says if you ignore debt, you won't be up to date on what's happening, and sometimes it's very time sensitive, and eventually it will catch up with you. She says if you don't pay your bills and you get into debt, you can be sued. If you get sued and you ignore that, you could end up with a judgment against you.
It's not uncommon for me to get clients call me and say, my bank account just got frozen, or I just received wage garnishment notices. That's a result of ignoring your debt and not paying attention to what's gone on. If you've moved over the last several years, it's really important to keep your address up to date. Again, you can run, but you really can't hide from your debt.
She says always update your creditors with your new address so you get the notifications. Open the mail, see what they are saying to you. And Tane says if you need help, reach out to appropriate agencies, corporations, individuals, or attorneys that can help guide you to deal with your debt. With this Watching Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
All right, before we go, we brought back our new favorite coworker here, Gravy.
Goodness, he's soft.
He is really soft, and like we said earlier, he is available for adoption later after he's talking to Noah off screen. In about 2 weeks, I think is what the animal shelter said, along with other dogs that have been saved from, oh, he wants you, Tom, saved from euthanization after a distemper outbreak. Oh, hi, at the Midland Animal Shelter. Thanks for watching CBS 7 News at 9 on the CW. We've got more news coming up tonight at 10.